The Cleveland Cavaliers are moving on to the Eastern Conference semifinals after a wild up and down 7-game series with the Toronto Raptors. The Cavs are a winner over Toronto, and they are moving on to Detroit. It'll be Cleveland and the Pistons. That series will start Tuesday night on NBCSN and Peacock, and then there were 8 as we welcome you into the association. A Sunday night edition, the Knicks and the Sixers. They'll get the party started tomorrow night at Madison Square Garden. Spurs and Timberwolves from San Antonio as well. And then on Tuesday night, it'll be Cavs, Pistons, and you got the Thunder and the Lakers. Antonio Daniels, 4th overall pick of the 1997 NBA draft. You can find him on Sirius XM. He's an NBA champion from 99. Antonio, let's get right to it. The Cavaliers and the Raptors were tied at halftime. They were tied through 6.5 games of this series if you look at the total score. And then Cleveland, a big second half to win this one, 114-102. What changed? Who changed this game?
Jarrett Allen. Jarrett Allen changed the game. Or honestly, the size of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Because when you look at a lot of the stats, okay, a lot of them are even. When you look at three-pointers and turnovers and all these areas, there are 2 areas that really stand out. One is rebounds. Cleveland out-rebounded the Toronto Raptors 60-33. And the other one is Cleveland had 20 offensive rebounds to only 7 by the Toronto Raptors. Cleveland's size, whether it was Jarrett Allen or Evan Mobley, their size was too much for the Toronto Raptors to deal with.
Think about this in this game. It's not like Donovan Mitchell and James Harden were world beaters. James Harden shot 3 for 9. Donovan Mitchell, it was fine, but he shot 2 of 9 from 3. He had 22 points. Harden had 18. But we often talk about in these series, especially ones that go longer, who steps up outside of your main guys? And that was the question heading into the second half. And perhaps this is where you felt, okay, no Brandon Ingram. Scotty Barnes gets in foul trouble. They didn't have Emmanuel quickly throughout the whole series. Toronto put up a valiant effort. But, Antonio, you're saying there at the half, and you're saying if you're Cleveland, who's it going to be? Max Strus and Sam Merrill are providing a punch. Who's it going to be? Evan Mobley goes to the bench in this game fairly early in the third quarter with 4 fouls. And I think the vibe from the outside was, this gives Toronto an opening. Jarrett Allen said, enough is enough. I'm taking matters into my own hands. What a performance, Antonio. 22 points, 19 rebounds, 3 blocks. You said he looks like who out there tonight?
Prime Ralph Sampson. He looked like prime Ralph Sampson out there today. He was every bit of fantastic. And if you watch the first game, we heralded and talked a ton about Tobias Harris and how much he was needed for the Detroit Pistons to win in Game 7 alongside Cade Cunningham. In this particular game, if I would have told you coming into a game that had Donovan Mitchell and James Harden and Scotty Barnes on the floor, that the best player on the floor would be Jarrett Allen, that speaks volumes about his impact. He did a great job tonight at using his size, his athletic ability, and his agility to dominate the game on both ends versus the Toronto Raptors.
60-33 on the glass. 60-33 for the Cavaliers. Jarrett Allen is our association player of the game. Look, this is a Cleveland team that we talked about it before this game. I would argue that next to the 1 seeds, there wasn't a team heading into the first round of the playoffs with more pressure on them than the Cavaliers.
Agreed.
Because the window is now. You're staring into it right now. And had they lost this game, Antonio, there would have been some major repercussions, because you're talking about leadership there that expects to do what? Expects to contend for championships. It's the only way Dan Gilbert thinks, and good for him. It's what makes him one of the best in the NBA. They come into tonight, you could feel it early, Antonio. Like, Toronto was
Pressure.
outplaying the Cavs. They were dictating the game. The Cavs needed an enforcer. Allen supplied that. How about Max Strus in this game? Defensively all over the place, then hitting some big shots. Sam Merrill played fearlessly. Even a guy like Jaden Tyson, who stepped up as a younger guy on this team and did some good things. The supporting cast for Cleveland on a night, Antonio, where it's now or never, they really showed up with how much attention defensively Toronto gave to Harden and Mitchell.
Sometimes, John, you need guys to outplay their expectation to be successful. You need other guys to outplay their expectation, right? And you had guys tonight that outplayed their expectation. I don't mean offensively, I mean totally, right? If you look at, I tell you one of the things Max Strus is not known for. He's not known for his defense. But I tell you what, he brought it today. He outplayed his expectation defensively because he became an irritant defensively. And I felt like his energy, his defensive energy in that third quarter helped sway the game. It helped turn the game. Donovan Mitchell got this team off to a great start in the third quarter. And then it was almost like he handed it over to Max Strus, to Sam Merrill, to Jalen Tyson, to Jarrett Allen, to all the other guys. And those guys end up outplaying their expectations. That's huge in a game 7, because now if you look at the other side for the Toronto Raptors, and you brought it up earlier, John, they're without Brandon Ingram, they're without Emmanuel Quickly, right? So now you need other guys for the Toronto Raptors to outplay their expectation. In a game 7, that didn't happen today. But you're right. Toronto, being undermanned and outmatched, showed a very, very valiant effort on the road. Cleveland was too big and too physical today when it mattered most.
The wine and gold, they outscored Toronto 38-19 in quarter number 3. That's the difference in the game. You outscore them 38-19. They shut down Toronto offensively. Toronto was not able to do the same things on the offensive end of the floor that they had done throughout much of this series. Much of this series, the story was, Antonio, where's Cleveland's defense? Yeah, they've got 2 bucket getters in Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, but there's zero resistance happening from this club against the Toronto team that you enter the series, they were bottom 10 in perimeter shooting. They weren't really known for their offense. They were known for their length and versatility. Toronto shoots 8 for 28 from 3. Jamal Shed goes 5 for 16 from the floor. And look, he and Jacoby Walter, and we talked, Colin Murray-Boyles helped his stock a lot in this series. We'll get to Toronto in a bit here in their future, because I thought Coach Rajakovic did a tremendous job with his team.
Agreed.
But at the end of the day, it was the balance of Cleveland stood out. And the moment that they started to move the ball, too, like Antonio, the ball was stuck throughout much of the first half. Things really changed. This game went on. I did think, and if you have another thought on this, whether it's agree or disagree, I thought Donovan Mitchell, as the game went on, he became a really good facilitator and said, you know what, I'm going to ride these guys' hot hands.
And I like when stars are okay allowing the game to breathe. Allowing the game to breathe and trusting in those that are on the floor with you. Because you know what Toronto does a great job of? They do a great job of loading up and tilting the floor toward Donovan Mitchell, tilting the floor toward James Harden. Basically saying, if we're going to lose, we're not going to lose because James Harden and Donovan Mitchell beat us. It's going to have to be Jarrett Allen. It's going to have to be Sam Merrill. It's going to have to be Jalen Tyson. It's going to have to be Max Strus. And you know what? It was. It was. So sometimes as a coach, you can come into a game 7 with a game plan and say, if we lose, this is how we're going to lose. These guys have to outplay their expectations. And they did. They did, because Toronto did a fantastic job throughout the course of this series on both Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. Other guys for Cleveland stepped up at the right time, though.
Let's go right to the podium. Cavs head coach, the winning head coach, moving on to the Eastern Conference semifinals to meet the Detroit Pistons Tuesday night. Cavs head coach Kenny Atkinson.
And biggest margin of victory in a playoff hit. So this was a struggle. And I think, we all know you get tougher that way. You helps you improve. Especially we know the series that's coming up, right? A lot of similarities between the teams.
How do you characterize Jarrett's impact tonight?
Man, really took us over the top, right? That third quarter performance, best I've seen him. Coached him a long time. Known him for lots. It's the best I've seen him. The offensive rebounding, and we needed the inside scoring. We needed someone else to step up besides James and Don. He was just absolutely incredible tonight.
Because you have coached him for such a long time, did you see something within him change in the second half?
I don't know where. Like, you're gonna laugh at this, but when we go out before the introductions, whatever, and he was like flying around, like giving. Normally he's pretty, he's enthusiastic, but he was like, it's like, man, what got into this guy? And and he was ready. He was ready for the moment. But listen, he's been going through some health things, and I think he doubled down. This is my theory. He doubled down on his work in the training room and in the weight room. Right? You gotta. Sometimes when you're hurting a little, you got to do more. And we asked him to do more. We asked him coming early. So credit to Steve and their group, like for getting that engine going. But I do think there's a correlation between the work he's been putting in lately and how he played tonight.
Thank you.
Please limit your questions to one and a follow-up if you need it.
Yeah.
Joe Reedy.
Kenny, how much did that run the last 3 minutes of the first half galvanize you, just going from down to 9 to tied at half?
Yeah, no, we were really struggling until then. And it is a big difference. Yeah, I could hear when we went in that locker room, it was like you heard the chatter, right? Everyone becomes more enthusiastic. They're more attuned to what we need to do better. There's an enthusiasm to what you're talking about at halftime. Sometimes you go in 6-8 down, and everybody's, your sternum's down, the spirit's not right. But that run got our halftime, halftime mojo better, right? The conversations were better. They were more positive. That was huge.
And then just following up, you start the third quarter, 9 straight points. Just what was the
Yeah, I think I think that was it. We watched film like we usually do, and we knew we had to clean, right? 13 turnovers at the half, and my only thing is like we gotta make the extra pass. We gotta make the simple pass. If we can do that simple thing, we're gonna get out of this series. And I think second half, I think we'd have 2 or 3 turnovers. I knew if we cleaned that up, that was gonna be a big key.
Left side, Jamal.
What's up, Jamal?
Kind of just off that, Donovan and James, I think
Yeah.
4 turnovers combined for them in general. Just their play tonight. How did you sort of assess them?
Yeah, I thought in the first half again we're forcing it too much. We're driving down tunnels, right? Like just kind of forcing it down the tunnel to the basket, and sometimes you have to move the defense, right? You have to move it side to side, and sometimes it's not the first pass, it's that swing pass. So that was just, we just kept hammering that message. But second half they had to sacrifice a little bit, getting the ball to Jay, getting off the ball early. But that's those guys. Tonight was about playing a win, doing all the little things, and they really turned that around in the second half.
Mikey.
You never know what you're going to get from the role guys in a Game 7 situation.
Yeah.
I thought Max, Sam, and Jalen all
Yes.
stepped up in a big way. Are you surprised that all 3 of those guys rose?
I know, because I was waiting, right? We had a max game. We hadn't really had the big. They've had it, quite honestly. They've had a couple guys step up, and we weren't. We hadn't had that as much. But you're right, all 3. I thought Jalen was huge, right? Like, it was amazing. James and Don just kind of gave him the ball, said, "Go ahead, go to." He started turning into Cal Berkeley JT, right? Like just handling and dishing, and we needed that. The way they were playing with us, and then Max was just I don't know, his spirit and nastiness and all that. Like we needed that. We needed that punch, and of course Sam. Sam stretching the defense with his gravity. So it's kind of like I said, the first time all series we had multiple role players step up.
Nate?
Yep. What's up, Nate?
Why'd you go back to Dean Wade, and what did you think?
At the beginning of the half, at the beginning of the second half.
You went back to the start.
Oh, yeah. Listen, again, we're +8 in the possession game tonight, and I thought that was the key to the series, to beating this team and to at least hold them even, and so that was my thinking, and all the lineups with Dean, we rebound better, and we defend better, and that was the thinking there, and it's a toss-up, right? Because you got Max and his shooting and his spacing, but tonight we needed the defense and rebounding from Dean in that lineup.
You touch on it for just a minute, but just game one's right around the corner.
Yeah.
What do you see the challenge there?
Man, I think a lot of similarities, physicality, right? We're going to have to be mentally and physically tough to beat this team. To me, number 1 seed, they've had a great year. They're the favorites. We go in there, we go in there as underdogs, which is a challenge. But I think it's going to be a similar series, being able to handle their pressure, their rebounding, their force, their physicality. So hopefully this series prepared us for that.
Yeah.
Maybe going back to halftime, the other night there was Dennis, you had a message and kind of led the charge. Was there an individual that
No.
motivated, or was that
We put on the film of the game, we put in sections of the first half, and those guys just, I can hear them. We're not far from them. I can hear them. They're just, they're talking through the clips themselves, and we just kind of wait. We get our keys and we get our maybe 3 or 4 clips to show them, but I love that conversation. And we got high IQ players. They're usually the biggest voices, right? Don, James, Dennis is one of them, Evan. And they talk about, what we need to do better. And then the coaches come in and I asked them, what do you got first? And they did some good feedback. And then I said, man, make the extra pass, make the simple pass, hit singles, and we'll win this, we'll win this game.
Leah.
Kenny, 6 guys were in double figures tonight. The storyline in the regular season was about how many different lineups you guys had to play with all throughout the regular season. How is that going to work to your advantage on a night like tonight when you have so many different guys that could complement one another?
Yeah, and that was a tough thing about preparing for this series, and we're throwing out some lineups that we'd never seen before, that's not easy for a coaching staff, but we got some reps under our belt now. We have some, with these different lineups, I have a little more confidence after this series. Even that, I like that, beginning of second quarter lineup, which we haven't used a lot with Jalen in it. We brought in Dennis a little later to play with James, and then had Jalen with that group so we could get some size. So. And you just don't, you look at the data, there's just like hardly any sample size. So you're like, well, just let's throw it out there. So, but important, we got some reps with some lineups that we, might give us some more confidence to play against Detroit.
Do you have an idea? Do you think this team has an identity?
We'll see, Joe, to be determined, right? I mean, we got this is a first round, victory, and we were the favored seed. So, we still got a lot to prove. We still got to take that next step. Happy with getting this series, but that'll be determined at a later point.
Then you guys, you had 3 tough losses in this series, and you never flinched. No one made a bigger deal out of it than it could have been. Nationally, you guys were taking some criticism for this. I don't want you to respond to that, but I'm just wondering, now that we re-rack and you're on to the second round, does it feel like, hey...
You cleanse yourself, Joe, you're cleansed, It's and I think how the other series went, this is, I don't know, our rhetoric, this is how it goes. This is the play, internally it's different. because we not to be arrogant about it, but we've been in this league. We know how hard this league is. We knew the parity in the Eastern Conference especially. So it's like, okay, it's kind of like business. No one's like, man, we should be killing the, like, there's none of that. And I think that speaks to the humility of the group and the understanding, the perspective of our group, but also the organization, right? And then from my point of view, I just never read your BS, all you guys BS, the national stuff, I'm saying that jokingly, but I really do. You try to, you got to shut that stuff out. It'll I'll read it, in 10 years, and probably come knocking at your door. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Donovan, Jarrett, and